time to get your fix. Come on down, get your horrible gaming review. 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 Wow.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and you have decided for whatever reason to listen to another horrible game review. A couple of disclaimers before we get into this. Number one, the word horrible in the title of this content does not refer to the game or DLC that I am reviewing, but much more the content itself. I do snap judgment reviews here, only trying to give you an idea whether you're going to have fun with it right away or not. Because of that, and the fact that I think most games are games are the most subjective form of art, I will not be giving a score to my review. I will instead be telling you an overview of what the game is, then a list of the pros and the cons of the game in my point of view, as all reviews are. Then I'll be telling you whether I personally will be sticking with the game outside the purposes of this review or not. I also want to say Happy Halloween. And no, I'm not doing a voice just for fun. My voice has still not come back from COVID a few weeks ago, so yay. I apologize for it ahead of time. But for Halloween, I decided to do a little bit of a spookier game, so we are going to review Dead by Daylight. Now, I know what you're thinking. This game's been around for a while, and it has. In fact, this, in my opinion, is probably the most prominent asymmetrical success story that any game has ever really shown. The 1v4 system, it actually works here, and I don't know that it works as well in any other game. But we'll get into that, and we'll get into the rest of it. So what is Dead by Daylight? Dead by Daylight, like I said, asymmetrical horror game. Everybody is played by real people. One person plays alone. They play a killer, a slasher, in your own personal slasher movie. The other four people play survivors. Now, the survivors have very limited combat capabilities. And what they're trying to do is kind of sneak around the map and slowly fix these generators. When they get up to the generator, they will start to work on the generator, and every randomly, so often, a little skill prompt will come up. If they hit the skill prompt correctly, they continue to work on it. If they don't, they alert the killer to their presence and their location. If they can manage to get all 5 generators turned on, then they have to open a door on one. There's 2 on either side of the map, and then once the door is open, they have to pass through the door to get out. There are a couple of exceptions to this rule, such as when there's only one person left on the map. After the killer has killed so many or whatever, a hatch appears that the person can escape from without having to go through the door animation or fix the generators. The killer, on the other hand, because this is a tale of 2 games, is trying to take down the survivors. Now, they're usually faster, they're much stronger. But they have smaller fields of visions, so they have to be very smart and precise with how they chase and hunt the survivors. The whole game is about the chase, really. The survivor will be trying to get away from the killer through different ways, such as dropping pallets in front of them, sliding through windows or over objects that the killer can't, and just kind of juking them out and then hiding. Whereas the killer has to hit them 2 times, unless the survivor has some sort of perk, to down the opponent. Once they're down, they can pick them up, and they have to walk them over to a hook and hang them. Once they're hung, a timer starts to count down. If no one pulls the survivor off the hook, then the survivor is dead. If the killer manages to hook the survivor 3 times, the survivor is dead. And that's the game, guys. That's the entire game. They usually play out anywhere between 10 minutes to 30 minutes a game. Then you get awarded points based on your performance in the game. Now, the point awarding system is very interesting because you are awarded points much more on the chase than the actual strike or kill. Especially with the killer. You get more points for chasing specifically and causing tension than you do necessarily hanging them on hooks. I mean, you do get points for that. but there is something to actually playing your role as the killer. You get awarded more points. Same with the survivor. You actually get points for holding up the chase and making the chase last longer and running the killer, applying pressure, that sort of thing. And that's the game. You're trying, as the survivors, you're trying to get away. As the killer, you're trying to kill the survivors. That's simple. As you get points, you get what's called blood points. You then get this little blood web thing that you use the points to spend on that give you items in game to use. As a survivor, you'll get like a toolbox that allows you to work on generators faster or even sabotage hooks. You could also get a med kit or a map, a flashlight to blind the killer, whereas the killer get add-ons for their specific powers and weapons that make them better at killing. You also get a perk loadout with each that you slowly unlock through the use of this blood whip. Okay, I think I've covered all the basics. Let's hit the pros and cons. Okay, let's go into the pros first. The first pro I have to say is the sheer amount of content that is in this game already. And I'm sure it wasn't like that in the beginning, but the astronomical amount of killers and survivors in the game is amazing. There's everybody's in here. For killers, you have a ton of original, ton of unique killers. Plus, you have the girl from The Grudge, Michael Myers. You have Freddy Krueger, all sorts of stuff. Survivors, same thing. You've got a ton of survivors from both pop culture mediums as well as their own unique survivors. Now, granted, this is a premium game. This is a free-to-play game. Well, it's not free-to-play. You do have to spend like $30 on it if you're not playing it through Game Pass, but it is free through Game Pass. And then you have to pay for transactions inside. You can earn these iridescent shards, but it is a minuscule amount. It takes something like 8,000 to unlock characters. Nonetheless, even if you only have the small amount unlocked, you will meet up with new killers and new survivors along the way. There are still a couple of killers that I've never met in a game, which I find incredibly interesting. There's just that many. There's also a ton of maps and a ton of things to do content-wise here. My next pro is the fact that they made asymmetrical work. How many asymmetrical games can you think of that actually work? I can only think of really this one. So few 1v whatever games. And this one works, and this was like the original one to do it too. I was always impressed with that. I'm still impressed with that now. Apart from some balancing issues, which every multiplayer game has, it's pretty good balance-wise, too. I never really felt like I had less chance of surviving as I did to kill the people, or vice versa. Yeah. My next pro is... And this is kind of a weird one. It might be specific to me, but I never really feel like I'm winning or losing. I feel like I'm just playing my part in the game on how it does, and this game does a really good job of that. When I'm the killer, even when I don't get any kills, I still feel like I was the killer. I was scaring people. I was hitting them. I was dealing damage. I was running them around the course. I felt like I played my part in this miniature horror movie. Same with the survivor. Even when I die, I feel like, well, I pulled this guy off the hook, or I ran the killer for a couple of minutes, or I managed to fix one generator. And that's something I like about this game. It always makes you feel like you're contributing to it, and you're contributing to the scene, which really never gave me that feeling of just like utter loss. Don't get me wrong. There were a couple of matches where there'd be three douchebags with a flashlight just nailing me as the killer left and right, and it was very frustrating. Or with the survivor, there'd be a couple of times where a killer would just center on me and take me out. Nonetheless, overall, I feel like I've never really felt like I wasn't contributing to the game or the story that was being told in this small section of game, and I really enjoyed that. All right, let's get into the cons. I have a few. Overall, there's going to be probably bigger cons and probably more cons than there were pros. Doesn't mean I think this is a bad game. I have enjoyed playing it. My number one problem is that this game isn't free to play. It is literally chalked to the gill with microtransactions, battle passes, season passes, character purchases, just tons of them. Now, you can earn a lot of stuff by not paying money, but still, you're going to want to purchase things. And while this feels like a free-to-play game because it's in Game Pass, it's not. It's $30. Sometimes it's cheaper, like $10 or whatever, but this should be free-to-play. There's just too many microtransactions in it to let it go. There's no way I can let that go with everything I've said on every other show. There's too many things that you have to be paying for in this game, or should be paying for, or can buy, to have it also cost a out-of-the-gate price. And honestly, it's a good game. It's not that good to require that much money. What do I mean by that? Well, there are some issues here. Mainly connectivity issues and weird bugs. Mostly, I didn't have too much of a hard time. When I'm playing with a couple of guys that I played with, there would be a bug often that we would get where somebody would leave the party and then it would just say that we were all in matches and we couldn't get back together. There was stuff like that where we'd have to just reset the game and start over. My big problem, though, is that during the Halloween weekend, and you can actually go check out my Hard Rock Halloween stream, number 2, and you can see my problems with this. It would just keep booting us. It just kept booting us because they were doing a free weekend and didn't have the server space. And that's ridiculous. Your game's been around for over 4 years, and you're doing a free weekend. You should have the server space, period. If you don't have the server space by then, if you don't have it figured out by then, what the fuck are you doing with yourself? So I cannot give them a pass on that. It was a ridiculous technical glitches. Not only did it ruin my stream, but it made it just nearly impossible for us to play. I couldn't even get into a game as the killer without any friends in. I couldn't get in the game, period. It was very frustrating and a huge problem. You should be prepared for that amount of traffic, and you should have definitely had the experience via your previous free-to-play weekends, which they've had plenty, to know that you're going to have that kind of traffic and bolster your servers accordingly. So there are some serious connectivity issues here, some bugs in that regard that is a little frustrating. My next big con, and this might be a con of personal preference, but all of these are in my point of view, and all reviews are in the point of view of the reviewer, so I have to say it. It's way more fun to play the killer than the survivor. It just is. Survivor, and I'm not even saying that from a standpoint of it's more fun to be hunting the people and attacking the people than running. They don't make the survivor part interesting enough. There is some cool aspects to it. There is some cool aspects to the teamwork. I did find when I was working with 3 other people that I knew that it was fun. It was never not fun, but at the same time, the randomized skill checks on the repairing generators were super absolutely annoying. When you're running, there's nothing really fun to the running. You can do some serpentine patterns or whatever, but and you can do loops, which, I'm sorry, I find loops boring. That may be a hot take, but running around a car or around a big thing over and over again to keep the killer chasing you, that's not fun. There's nothing fun about that chase. That doesn't denote horror movie to me. It just denotes some weird thing that you're supposed to do. And it's built into the game. You're supposed to do it. I just don't find it fun. I would much rather have some cool parkour mechanics for the survivors, some ways for them to run in more interesting, cool ways than just I've got to circle around this house real fast, or I've got to find this good loop around this car. There's other certain things about it, but playing the killer, even when they're griefing you, is more fun because A, I'm not relying around other people to do the generators and not generally suck. B, I have way more control over my surroundings. When I lose, I don't feel like I just got screwed out of something because I had an itch I had to scratch, and that's when the frickin' skill check popped up. It's just so much more fun to play killer. I only play survivor when my friends are on and they're playing. because it's not that fun for me. And I think that it's the biggest weakness of the game, personally. All right, whether or not I'm going to stick with it, let's do it. I am. I enjoy the game. Weirdly enough, I know it's a horror game, but I really enjoy Killer, as I've already mentioned. I do really like playing this with my friends. They are very into this game, and that does make it a lot more fun for me. But overall, it's a fun game. It's a nice multiplayer game that I enjoy. I do want to say one more added, either pro or con. I can't really decide whether this is a pro or con. But there are all these weird rules. And look, I've played a lot of these games, a lot of versus games, multiplayer games, where these rules kind of just crop up to kind of make the game more interesting. For Honor had some of them where, like, you're not supposed to ledge your opponents in. You're supposed to let people fighting one-on-one fight one-on-one. Stuff like that. This one has an astronomical amount of these silly, dumb shit rules that I find silly. I find silly and stupid. If you're playing a multiplayer game, you're playing a multiplayer game. Play it the way you want to play it and try to win. Or don't, or do whatever you want. But, I mean, no tunneling, no camping, no nothing, blah, 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 blah. It's silly, man. Just play the way you want to play. If the developers find a way to stop you, if they don't like it, they'll find a way to stop you. And if they do like it, then they'll let you go, you know? But there's a lot of them. So, like, I don't know. If you like a game with a lot of, like, player-implemented rules that maybe make it more fun and interesting, then this is the game for you. If you don't want to be randomly called toxic just for trying to win a game, this might not be the game for you. So, it's up to you. But this is Dead by Daylight. I am going to be playing it a little bit more. I enjoy it. I think that overall they present a really good product to you. Again, I think it should be free to play, but, you know, I got Game Pass, so I can play it, whatever. So that's it. Happy Halloween, everybody. I hope you guys had a great holiday. I will be back next week with a real independent one, Jadonia. I'm doing a couple of independent ones back to back, which I'm excited about. Won't get any views on them, but hey, whatever. And then, you can contact us on Facebook at OhMyGamingDH, Twitter on OhMyGaming9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below, and you can influence this show from anywhere. I do requests. As long as you keep watching, listen, I'll keep making them. See you guys next time.